Good man yourself. Brendan, now, will we read an article from the newspaper to give people a little teaser? What do you think? Or we'll leave it till later on?
Well, we can do that now if you want, yeah.
Right, okay. So, what article are we going to read now, Kieran?
So, this being Ireland's only Catholic nationalist newspaper, we've got some serious big hitters writing for the paper.
Andrew Joyce being one of them.
Andrew Joyce being one of them.
Now, Andrew Joyce, he's a very busy man. I'm in daily contact with him via email because I'm trying to get him on for an interview. He's promised me an interview, so Andrew, if you're listening, haven't forgot. You said you were going to come on, so Andrew's hopefully going to come on next week.
So, this is one of the, this is page 14. See there on the...
There we go. See your good friend Jerry Adams with an Antifa flag.
So this is our proud Irish patriot, the defender of the Catholic community, Jerry Adams, the heroic man himself, standing with two flaming red communist scumbags in the street with their degenerate flag, anti-fascist in German, for whatever reason. And there he is. He seems very at home. He's smiling. He's happy. He's with his friends, essentially. His comrades. He's with his communist Marxist comrades. Because, of course, as we all know, Sinn Féin actually sell anti-fascist merchandise in their own shops. Let that sink in for a moment, lads. Yeah. If any Americans or foreigners are watching and they think that Ireland won some kind of coup for patriotism and nationalism at the last election when Sinn Féin did very well, well, think again. These people have been communists for at least the last 50 years. Yeah. The leadership of this party has been fully communist for at least the last 5 decades. And what else can you say? Sinn Féin was founded by Arthur Griffith just about 100 years ago in order to fight for the national sovereignty and independence of the Irish state, to fight for an Ireland that belongs to the Irish people. Most of the men who wrote for that paper, who distributed that paper, fought and died to bring that to being. Now, unfortunately, the Irish Republic is still not here. We still not have managed to build an Irish Republic. We don't have a sovereign, independent Irish state. On the one hand, because the country's been partitioned, on the other hand, because far-left communist scum like Jerry Adams have sold this country to foreigners. They've sold it to the EU, we're now under Brussels rule. They've sold it to foreign corporations who are planting our country daily with cheap foreign labour, displacing the Irish people in our own country. They're supporting abortion, birth control, sexual degeneracy, promiscuity, and all other forms of leftist degeneracy, forcing down the Irish birth rate, destroying the Irish family, and perpetuating the largest genocide of Irish people that has ever happened.
Yeah, the birth rate was announced in Ireland as an all-time low. It's down again this year by another 10%.
So we're in an all-out war, and Sinn Féin are leading the banners of leftist communist degeneracy against the Irish nation. That's the world we live in. So let's give Andrew Joyce's article a read. It says, Sinn Féin, Irish nationalists or communist quislings. Andrew Joyce explores the connections between Antifa, British Marxism, and the so-called Irish nationalist party Sinn Féin. Yes, to give a bit of background, Sinn Féin was founded by Arthur Griffith in the 19-teens, and it began as a conservative Irish nationalist Catholic organisation, primarily. In the 1930s, Pat Donnelly and other far-left Republicans tried to take over the movement, tried to take over the party, and failed. It was called the Republican Congress. It was a splinter movement, and it fell apart. Then, after the whole Trotskyist movement came into being, the leftists had a new strategy. It was called entryism. Entryism is when members of your organisation begin to take positions in your enemy's organisation and slowly move themselves up the ranks until they control departments, until they control wings, branches and so on of the other organisation, and slowly take it over completely from the inside. Trotskyites and other communists have become absolute experts at this. That's how they took over academia, how they took over the media. That's how they took over the State Department in America. And Sinn Féin was taken over in essentially the exact same way. And it was taken over mostly in the 1960s. And Gerry Adams was one of the primary figures in that takeover. But this article is in fact about how Gerry Adams and other left-wing communist Republicans are heavily connected with English and British communists. The so-called Irish nationalists, that is. So let's give this a read. Thanks to the riots associated with the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, we're all now very familiar with the chaotic sight of masked thugs mindlessly destroying property and attacking decent people in the name of social justice. These people operate under a number of names. Some claim to be anarchists. Others say they are nothing more than Black Lives Matter activists. Still, more will call themselves Marxists. But one happy umbrella they are all happy to come under is that of Antifa or anti-fascists. Of course, the name anti-fascism is itself a Marxist propaganda device, since fascism is the term employed by these same people to describe anything linked to tradition, the family, religion, and nationality. Antifa and anti-fascism are therefore the terms adopted by those who wish to destroy society while assuming the deceptive cover of moral superiority. Here in Ireland, we have a growing Antifa problem. This expanding circle of domestic nation wreckers has been more muted in recent weeks than their counterparts in other countries. But you can be sure this is due more to a lack of ability and opportunity than a lack of will. The Burkean's recent exhaustive expose of Ireland's Antifa network has brought much needed clarity to how this movement of anarcho-communists advances its goals and embraces violence, how it reaches its tentacles throughout the academic mainstream, and how it represents a shameful insult to all that is noble and heroic in the Irish revolutionary past. Just a brief pause there. If anyone has ever been to a patriotic rally in Ireland, you'll notice that these Antifa are always accompanied by so-called Irish Republicans. I wonder, however, how many Irish people understand and appreciate just how close the nation-wrecking politics of Antifa are to the highest level of politics in this nation. I wonder if the Irish people have any comprehension of the way in which Sinn Féin in particular have advanced an avowedly Marxist agenda while cloaking themselves in romantic nationalism. I wonder if the Irish people know anything about the historic links between Sinn Féin and English Antifa. You probably haven't heard of the English communist group known as Red Action, but in the 1980s, Red Action and Sinn Féin were as thick as thieves. Officially founded in January of 1982, Red Action had its origins in the 1970s, when it emerged from Marxist Antifa squads established to attack members of English anti-globalist organisations like the National Front. It professed a militant anti-fascism, attacking anyone and anything patriotic and traditional, as well as promoting a Marxist distortion of Irish republicanism. In 1985, along with the echoing socialist group and direct action movement, it was the main driving force behind the formation of Anti-Fascist Action, AFA. They've got big Facebook pages and social media in this country as well. Anti-Fascist Action, which was Britain's largest and most violent Antifa grouping until it dissolved in 2001 and dispersed into a number of smaller factions. Today, AFA is more of a brand, under which a broad swathe of anarcho-communists have congregated, than a centrally organised group. In the 1980s, Sinn Féin was more than happy to work with these English communists, hosting many visits from Red Action members and even allowing Red Action to facilitate meetings with future Labour leader and one-time avowed Trotskyite, Jeremy Corbyn. Red Action stewarded meetings with Corbyn and Gerry Adams at the 1983 and 1989 Labour conferences, and in 1991, with the consent and cooperation of Marxist Republicans, Red Action established AFA Ireland in Dublin. In their enthusiasm to embrace English communists, however, Sinn Féin made the fatal mistake of engaging with an organisation riddled with MI5 and special branch agents. That's unheard of for Sinn Féin.
Unheard of Sinn Féin.
With Paul Lewis and Rob Evans pointing out in their 2013 book Undercover, The True Story of Britain's Secret Police, that British intelligence agents were part of almost every Red Action delegation to Belfast during the period. Unwittingly, Marxists within Sinn Féin and the Provisional IRA continued to involve compromised Red Action squads in their activities, including the 1993 Harrods bombing, the final stages of which were carried out by the English Red Action members Patrick Hayes and Jan Taylor. Due to the heavily compromised nature of Red Action, another of their English members, Manchester-born Liam Heffernan, was arrested on the advice of an informant after he became involved in preparing an INLA bombing campaign. In recent decades, Sinn Féin's interactions with Antifa have been less militant and explicit, but they remain as strong as ever. The party's online shop notoriously sells anti-fascist Action branded merchandise, and its politics is replete with all the same infantile Antifa tropes about spreading imaginary wealth to groups that are oppressed only in their own sociopathic minds. The truth of the matter is that Sinn Féin is playing an identity shell game, preaching a revolution that won't lead to freedom but to the chains of international globalism and to the replacement of the Irish people in their own ancient territory. As Gemma O'Doherty recently remarked, a vote for Sinn Féin is a vote for Antifa. If it isn't clear already, Sinn Féin have betrayed the Irish people. They prefer the rights of the international working classes to those of the Irish, and are little more than pawns in the globalist scheme to replace you.
Is that it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it there.
Oh, okay. Well, it's such a in-depth article by Andrew Joyce. Puts it so well. It was a way of writing, and like, I didn't know a lot of that stuff that he exposed there now, and that's just a small snippet of what you can expect in the Irish Patriot newspaper. Andrew Joyce has written on every single issue, and he already has written another article for issue number 5, and I probably can't even say the name of the title because it's so non-politically correct. But I've brilliant article, Andrew, for listening, and hopefully we can get interviewing you next week. What do you think of that article, Kieran?
That was fun. It was just on the money.
On the money, yeah. Brilliant,
yeah.
Isn't it?
Excellent information, really in depth. Has all the dates and figures. It's all lined up in a row for us. And this is exactly the kind of article that Sinn Féin supporters in the South and in the occupied 6 counties need to read. This is exactly what people need to understand. People in this country still do not understand that Sinn Féin is not a nationalist movement. It's incredible. It's been 5 decades since they were taken over by far-left communists and Marxists, and people still have no idea.
Like when we're out doing our days of action, we speak to men and women on the street, and they tell us, "Oh yes, we voted for Pierce Doherty. He's a great man." And then we ask, man or woman, "Are you pro-life?" Yeah, pro-life. What's your views on immigration? No, I don't think we should have as much immigrants in here as we do. What's your views on this radical sex ed? No, I'm against that. Well, why did you vote for Pierce Doherty? Oh, I don't know. I just thought he was a good man.
I just love my country.
I just love my country, yeah. Like, they don't understand Sinn Féin are pro-abortion, open border fanatics, and they support this radical sex ed. So it's up to us people to educate the masses who vote for Sinn Féin. If they knew Sinn Féin's policies, they would not be voting for them. So that's why you need to order the Irish Patriot newspaper. That's issue number 4, and that's a brilliant... You could just hand them, just open the page to Andrew Joyce's article and say, read that to your Sinn Féin friends and family.
Yeah. So issue 4, we've written issue 4 this way, we've edited issue 4 this way, because the whole goal of the paper is to appeal to the common man, to appeal to the average man on the street, not political people, not people who are watching videos online or who are interested in political controversies or anything like that. Just the normal man in the street. The normal man in the street is not happy about our new coalition. The normal man in the street loves Padraig Pearse. The normal man in the street is not happy that Islam has invaded Croke Park. They're not happy that Sean Russell, Chief of Staff of the IRA, had his statue defaced in Dublin town. Yeah. They're not happy about these things. You can hand this to almost anybody in the country who's normal and sane, and they'll come around to your point of view to some degree at the very least.
And there's a brilliant poster too of the great Padraig Pearse too. It's nearly worth getting this newspaper for that alone. Look at that. It's an absolutely huge poster. You can frame that and put it up on your wall. And that's what you get that's what you get with issue number 4. Now there's links below. Scroll down if you don't know how to do it. Scroll down below this video. There's links.